All right, so let's try this again.
Okay.
So, Back Pocket Films at Home Edition. We're doing a special episode about Bong Joon Ho's 2006 film, The Host,
Yep.
which, for those who don't know, is just a remarkable film on so many different levels. And it was prompted by you watching it again, and then you submitted your review of it. And I'm just reading it like it's time. And I didn't even know, just reading your review, I didn't even realize how topical and prescient it is.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm watching it with a whole new layer that I wasn't thinking about for the first time I saw it.
I mean, there's a scene where there's all these people standing at an intersection with masks on.
Yeah.
And this guy hocks a loogie and spits it in the puddle, and a car goes by, or a truck, and it all goes in their face. I mean, it's like, how is that not topical?
Yeah. Even before that, like, that's a very funny scene. But even before that, just them standing there and he starts coughing.
Yeah.
And then they just start inching away.
I know, man. I mean, that came out 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And just reading about how Bong Joon Ho came up with this idea, it's just really cool. It's like, I mean, he was inspired by some BS that went down.
Right.
And it's just so cool how it came to be and ended up in this masterpiece, man, because it is really an incredible film.
And so for those who don't know, so the movie is about, so it's a quote unquote monster movie about, the film opens where two scientists in a lab, one is South Korean, one is American. The American, who is of higher intel to the South Korean worker, he makes him dump a bunch of old formaldehyde into a drain, and the drain, as the worker says, goes into the Han River. And lo and behold, there's a mutation. That mutation grows and becomes this monster, and the monster attacks them. We meet this family, and the monster kidnaps takes the daughter to its nest, and the family tries to save the daughter.
Right.
That sounds like a very simple premise. But somehow he is just such an incredible filmmaker that he must gestate his ideas for so long that he's just like, he just builds this complex web.
That's why. It's funny that you say that. That is why I think of Hitchcock with him.
Yeah.
Parasite, and then going back through The Host, I'm like, and Kubrick too, because I'm like, dude, this guy clearly sees how his film is going to look. He must have thought about, that one scene where the creature, God, I hate to even talk about it because God forbid someone hasn't seen this movie. That scene should be preserved. But when you're introduced to the creature, it is the most jaw-dropping, just like you're not ready for it. You're not ready for how real it is. And Hitchcock he loved thinking about what his film was going to do to an audience. Yeah. And he was obsessed with it. And so that is where I feel like there's this lineage, is he you know, he like couldn't wait to like find out what that scene did to people, man.
And
Yeah.
I mean, and it's true, like that scene, I mean, it's like the D-Day invasion in Saving Private Ryan, where it's a completely visceral, like edge of your seat, jaw-dropping set piece, and
You might as well be.
you're almost tempted to just like stop the movie there. There's no way it can get better than this. And somehow an incredible film follows.
You know, it's similar to The Matrix when, you know, the opening 15 minutes, you know, when Trinity, you know, when they do the whole camera I mean, it's like, you're like, how could it possibly get better than this?
Right.
And, you know, I still think that is the most impressive set piece in the film. But it does, I honestly, I always thought of it as like this great monster movie, my favorite monster movie, but I never realized how socially conscious it was.
Right.
I never really understood that until I'm older now and having experienced what we were experiencing. It's like it really puts a lot in perspective.
Right. And like in like the best monster movies, like it has a deeper meaning, and it has characters that you care about.
Yep.
You know, they're not stock characters. They're not just, you know, the fulfilling a genre moment. Like they're real people, and they have real like that, and that it's able to. That's another thing with Hitchcock, is he's able to do these what could be seen as like these tonal shifts into comedy, like full comedy. Like the whole scene where they're trying to do the memorial, and they just start fighting with each other, and then they're on the ground and they're kicking each other and they're arguing with each other. And that's really funny in a real character-driven way.
And you know what sets his films apart is there's that scene where they're having dinner with like whatever they can find, you know, ramen noodles, whatever.
Yep.
And then it was so subtly enacted that I hadn't seen it for so long, so I didn't really remember, maybe even notice when I first saw it. But Amber had to point out, like, oh yeah, the daughter's there.
Right.
And this didn't occur to me. It was so seamless, and I think it was meant to be so, that it just washed over me. And then we rewound it, and I'm like, oh my God, like, what is this scene? This scene is like this like pocket in this film. It's like this little fantasy that is not treated as a fantasy, but treated as reality.
Right. Right. And you feel somehow by doing that, you feel the sense of loss that they have as a family in that one moment. And it's great that he's such a skilled filmmaker that the next scene immediately gets to her back in the sewer, so that there's never a moment where you're like, oh, that must have been like, you know, you're not confused by it.
Right.
Which is remarkable.
And you know, the creature is given a character.
Yeah. I
mean, you feel like this, you know, there's never like a close-up that's like, oh, let's get into the whole pathos of this. But it's like, it still is like, it's not just a animatronic or CGI, like, just like, you know, modern day. I mean, it really does seem to have this, like, it's just trying to survive, man.
Yeah.
Just trying to, you know.
And he's not afraid. Like, obviously, he put so much work and design into it that he's not just gonna hide it in darkness and shadow. Like, I think someone mentioned it on the page where it's like, I think this is the only monster movie in recent memory where it happens in broad daylight.
Right, I read that too. Yeah, it's so true. I mean, and that's what's so jarring about it. It's funny because I think of like Cloverfield, where one of the reasons I love Cloverfield is that it is so sparing with when you see the monster. And when you do, it's like some jarring stuff. So you're like, whoa, I gotta rewind that. Like, what did I just see?
Right.
Where this is just, it does the same thing, but it does it in a way that he sets the mood of the prior moment and lulls you into this feeling of like, and what he does is so great, the way he shows you it's just clinging to the bridge.
Yeah.
And you're just not, you're just looking at it the way everyone else is, right? You're not thinking about anything.
Right.
And there's a scene, do you ever see Hereafter?
Yeah.
The Clint Eastwood film?
Yeah.
There's the flood scene
Yep.
where you're not really expecting it, and there's stuff happening in the background, but and it's similar to War of the Worlds too. There's these set pieces where you think you see something, but you're not really sure, and you're like, what's that going on in the background?
Right.
And then slowly gets closer to you, the viewer, and it's just really striking.
Yeah. I mean, it was so effective when like that attack scene happened, and then they cut to the woman with the headphones on.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
you're just in her moment, and then all of a sudden you just see people running by her, and then
I mean, yeah, the editing in his films is truly amazing. Editing and cinematography, they're really just on point, man. And you can, it's that Hitchcock thing where it's like those are the real like heavyweight parts of a film.
Right.
Where I mean, you really, and with the score in this film, there's definitely some moments where you think of Hitchcock. Maybe one that sounds a little bit like Psycho, and like, I mean, pretty cool.
Yeah. And he I mean, he really is. I have to see all of his films. I will see all of his films. I mean, he's just an incredible filmmaker. And I think you called it out where it's like, oh, The Host, Parasite.
Right.
And they do link. Like they can be like a brother sister film. With the satirical comedy, look at government and class. And I was kind of thinking while watching the movie where, as great as the monster effects are and the creature design and all of that, is that he almost wrote it where it's like, if the monster wasn't there, you'd still have a very decent film.
Yeah, it's almost like the monster is the icing on the cake. I mean,
and like, for anyone who just goes into it who loves monster movies, you get your price of admission and then some. You get all of that stuff, but there's so much more to it, and it's so great that he is that type of filmmaker where it's like, I'm not just going to settle for making a good monster movie. I want to make a great monster movie.
Did you notice that one shot? There's this scene where I think it's like maybe in a hospital room or something, but the floor is like red. It's very clinical with like blues, and there's these doors in the background, and I'm watching it with Amber, and I'm like, this is The Shining. This is the elevator hall shot in The Shining.
Yeah.
He literally took the same framework of what that shot feels like and just redistributed it in this one room.
Right.
Using red. I was just, because it's so sparing. The color red is so sparing in the film that I was like, oh my God, this is a total homage. Right. And he's such a film buff, man. It's just so cool to see him paint.
Well, I mean, that whole sequence when he gets taken in, and then he's in the chair and he's strapped, and they're going to perform that surgery on him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is like Kubrick, Clockwork Orange, like level stuff. Like it's horrifying.
Right.
And I mean, it's almost like how some people say, like, the scariest scene in Jaws isn't anything to do with the shark, it's Quint telling the Indianapolis story. It's like that type of thing. It's like the most tense moment, the scariest moment, the most horrific moment has nothing to do with the monster.
Right.
And he had to have been like, okay, I'm gonna make my list of favorite monster movies.
Right.
And what makes them great. Like it could stand up next to the original Godzilla as a movie that's like, it's not just it's a monster movie, but it's also an allegory.
Yeah. I mean, it's my favorite monster movie of all time. It's one of those movies that stayed with me over the years.
Yeah.
And now I just, man, I've seen Snowpiercer. I wasn't a huge fan. It was like really like over the top, and like,
yeah,
I'd be down to watch it again, but I really want to see Mother, and I just want to go Okja, however you pronounce it. But
Memories of Murder is something that I want to see too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
because that made the host possible. I read that was a box office hit. So.
So you're like me, like you saw it back in 2006 when it came out. Like I saw it on, I mean, it's not that I saw it in the theater or anything, but heard about it and just rented it.
Yeah.
And then same thing, like it blew me away. But then I don't know, for some reason, like never wanted to kind of like revisit it until Parasite came out. We we just watched it this afternoon. And I'm just sitting there just being like I can't believe how, and I know I thought this the first time I saw it, but I'm just like, I can't believe how great this movie is.
I mean, there's a certain irony to, and he did kind of downplay any sort of anti-American vibe to this film, although he was saying, if there's anything there, it's sort of, it's not meant to be, overt, but it's like the irony that Parasite is then the first foreign film to win Best Picture at the Oscars is just sort of interesting.
Right.
The fact that he like really cut his teeth in America with this film that was pretty, critical of American authority and American government and America's presence in foreign soil.
Right. And I think he's what's great about that is that you're right. Like if you want to look for it, it's there. It's definitely there. But I think he kind of paints a picture of I'm against all military. I'm against all government. I'm against.
He's just as critical of the South Korean
right.
government and military as he is American. Yeah, absolutely.
There's the great scene where the guy comes in the suit, and then he slips and falls, and immediately like gets up and like strikes a pose. I mean, it's just like that's the type of like Hitchcock humor moment that you're talking about, where he's just not afraid to like do so many different things. Like, he throws so much into the pot.
Well, he has such an understanding of tone, and so did Hitchcock. It's like it's that uncanny ability to just navigate a story with whatever you need to grab out of your toolbox. It doesn't matter what it is, and that understanding of how to put it all together.
Definitely. I also wanted to, but like it just kind of it struck me as it was also just a very subtle character moment where it's when they're escaping the hospital, like where they take them in to quarantine them, and they all escape. And then there's just a moment where they're all in the van, they're driving away, and then they look back and they notice that the sister is behind, and they're just like, oh, she's always slow. And that's what led her to get the bronze medal, is that she took so much time, right? And it's just a great little just a humorous character moment that pays off. Like it pays off at the end. Um, like he's a smart filmmaker, and he's clearly a student of film.
Well, you know, then I read that he deliberately had this character of the like college student, where of this college protester. He wanted it to be a deliberate anachronism, where it's like this college protester that conjures up images of the past. It's a person that doesn't really exist anymore. So
Right.
he like wants it to be in the movie. Like, what a cool concept, man. I mean,
And just from a an action film standpoint, like them coming together and going into the sewer and hunting this thing,
mhm.
it's just exhilarating.
Yeah.
And it makes you think of like different things. Like it makes you think of aliens, or it makes you think of them. But it's completely its own thing. Like it never feels like it's like a ripoff, or like you're treading, um, you know, territory that's been gone over and over again. There's just a sense of just their dynamic as a family. Even the moment between the father and the son, before a big uh, plot point is just, I mean, it's incredible, man. Like you feel it. You feel, we talk about feeling the deaths of characters, and you can't help but get sucked up into the world of this family.
Well, he doesn't shortchange any moment. I mean, he values every single moment of a film, and you can just tell how much respect he has for filmmaking in general with how he uses the space and the time.
Yeah. Like there's a whole section of the film where you're just with the brother, and you're following through, and he meets an old friend, and trying to use the cell phone to locate her, and he does, and then he almost gets caught. Like it's a whole section of the film where it's just his film.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't stand out. It's not like, well, why are we doing this? Isn't the other character the main character? It doesn't matter.
Well, then finding out that because of Memories of Murder, this got an $11 million budget, which I guess was like unheard of.
Right.
South Korean film at the time for a movie to get that. And they could have shot these sewer sequences in a set. And instead he wanted to shoot in the sewer, and they were dealing with weather conditions where if it was too cold, it would freeze and they had to break it up and melt the ice. Or then if it was too hot, it would create this situation where this silt would turn into dust and blow into the actors and crew's eyes. It's just the fact that he had the patience and the belief in how it would look, right, to navigate these situations and be like, no, it's worth it.
Yeah.
There's nothing like shooting a sewer scene in a sewer.
And that's probably what adds to the fact that how invested you get in them, because you feel how invested they are as actors, but as characters, you feel the sweat and the heat and how horrible it must be under there.
Dude, it's very Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Hitchcock loved to, and same with Kubrick. They both loved to impose conditions upon actors and kind of see what happened. Yeah. I mean,
dude, how incredible is the sequence when they're in that I don't even know what it is. I guess it's like a trailer, but then the father starts talking about his son and his childhood, and and it's so funny because the brother and the sister just kind of nod off, they're not interested in listening to it, and he's just going on and on and on, and then all of a sudden he comes into frame, and he's staring at him. You think he's staring at him, but then he's staring past, and he's like, it's looking at us.
Huh.
And then they just like they turn, and then the creature is there, and then he takes the gun out, tries to shoot it, and then it attacks the trail. I mean, it's just so well done, man. It's just it's an incredible feeling watching this movie. Just like it was an incredible feeling watching Parasite and just seeing how it unfolds.
You know, it's funny that you mentioned Alien, because when we did the Alien episode, I remember reading all this stuff on Wikipedia about that Ridley Scott was kind of doing all these things that kind of wore on the actors a little bit, where you see their real reactions, and it's like very similar to Hitchcock. And I think even reviewing Alien, I mentioned Hitchcock, and it's like you might even see Ridley Scott and Alien as sort of a, you know, something that Bong Joon Ho might have looked at.
Right.
I mean, it's just so cool, man, to like the way just film history kind of repeats itself, but the true auteurs, they know how to leave their stamp on it.
Right.
Like they borrow, they're like, no, I'm going to redistribute this in a way that you don't really recognize it.
Right. It's not enough to just copy it. I'm going to take it and weave it into my own thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, and the thing is, it's like Bong Joon Ho seems like he's on the career path where he will be someone that in 2034, someone does something where you're like, oh, that kind of seems like something from The Host or Parasite.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I'm there for whatever he wants to do next.
Same here. I haven't anticipated anything like this since the Safdie brothers.
Yeah.
Uncut Gems. You know, it's where it's like, I just can't wait to see what he comes up with.
Right. And whatever interview that I can get my hands on, like it would be really interesting to hear what his process is, especially of writing, because clearly he has a knack for it. But I mean, there's just got to be something about the way he crafts his story, and where I've heard this like a couple times from different sources, but it's like, whatever your first idea is, chuck it and come up with the next one, and then chuck that and come up with the next one. Like eventually you get to the one that's just so off the wall that never would happen, and somehow it works. That's how it feels like with his films, where it's just like, it's like there's no way in hell there's a secret room at the underneath this house, right? But there is. And
well, and what it is, it's like it's similar to a double or triple entendre, where in order for those devices to work, you have to sell the original one. So there's no way you're going to be impressed by realizing something has multiple meanings unless you think it's that original thing, and that's it. So he sells you on this idea that this is what this movie's about. And then he's like, nope, like, look at this, and it's amazing.
And that's even what gives him the audacity and the gall to 15 minutes into your movie give you the most incredible set piece and show you the monster.
Right.
Like he knows he can do that because, dude, that monster attacking the city and attacking these characters is the least of what I have up my sleeve in this movie. And there's just something so goddamn exhilarating about that.
Yeah.
Of watching it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's what sets it apart.
Right.
From other monster movies. I mean, you can't wholly classify it as a monster movie because it has so many social ramifications that it really is. It's one of those movies, just like Night of the Living Dead really a zombie movie, right? It's like one of those things where it's like you have to look at it like, no, this thing is like about way more.
Right. And then you have the conversation with people. It's like, I don't really like that movie. I don't really like zombie movies. It's like, you don't understand.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, what did Amber think about it?
She loved it.
Yeah, great.
You know, with Parasite,
Too.
I remember leaving Parasite, and I was impressed. I was like, this is a 4-star movie. Amber was like kind of on the fence. Like, she liked it. She didn't know if she loved it. And then the more it kind of sat with us, the more it was like, that movie's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I really processed how much is going on and what everything means and how painstakingly he crafted each part, both screenplay wise and filmmaking wise.
Right. Yeah, it was the same for me, because like I know, like going through it, I was like, this is an incredible movie. Like I'm with this movie. And then there was one little piece at the end where I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm with that. And
Right.
and then just like you said, like the more you thought about it, like what am I doing? Like why am I nitpicking this? Like it was
Have
amazing.
you watched it again since then?
No, but I can't wait.
Neither. And it's on Hulu, so I've been meaning to rewatch it.
Yeah. Criterion's doing an edition of it.
Nice.
I'm excited about. So I get that. But I think they're gonna do a couple of his movies. I think they're looking at doing Mother and Memories of Murder, which would be cool. Finally get to see him.
You know, reading about this on Wikipedia, so not only was there supposed to be a video game, there was supposed to be a sequel, which was going to be produced, the sequel or prequel, and it was like really going to happen. And then a U.S. remake produced by Gore Verbinski and directed by the guy who did Charlie Countryman and written by the guy who did Smart People. And it was like fully a thing. And it was going to come out in 2011 or 2012.
Yeah.
It's like just crazy to think about. Like, I'm so glad none of that happened.
Right. And not to shit on other movies too much, but I mean, you watch this movie and it's like it puts other monster movies to shame, man.
It does, man.
Like I can't even think about the American remake of Godzilla.
Right.
And I'm
a huge fan of Creature of the Black Lagoon. Like, I love monster movies, but this redefined the monster movie, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I know, like, it must have a cult following of some kind, and people must, those who have seen it must love it.
Right.
But I think, part of the reason why I wanted to do this with you is just to tell people just to go and see this movie. Like, if you love monster movies, like, you just get ready to see the monster movie.
That's what I've told people for years. I'm like, you have no idea what you're about to watch. It's the same way with, The Matrix and Memento. When I was a teenager, when I saw those movies for the first time, I would just go to people at my high school and I'd be like, yo, we got to go see this movie this weekend. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. We're just going to go and you're going to watch it. And then I would vicariously experience it through them. And just because the twist in Memento was so amazing.
Yeah.
And Matrix was so off the wall. You've never seen anything like this before. And the host had something like that. There's something to that initial attack scene that you've never seen in your life.
Right. So when you did that, because I did the same thing, how good was your was it about 50-50 of like people that you would get to be like, yeah,
Oh, actually thought Memento. They were like, all right, so it's like backwards. It's like,
Right. You're like, I can't even feel like.
I mean, with Memento, you have to appreciate like film noir
Right.
and like, you know, certain tropes to be able to like get what Christopher Nolan's doing.
Yeah.
But with The Matrix, I mean, you read that book, Best Movie Year Ever?
Right.
I can't believe there were people who like passed on being involved in The Matrix, or even were like, I don't get it. like I just don't understand that.
Right. And it makes you think, like, I mean, I wonder, what did the script look like?
True.
Like, you know, was what we eventually saw in that script. And perhaps like they had like same things of like, you know, I guess Samuel L. Jackson read the script of Boogie Nights and was like, I don't want to be in this. Like, I don't even know what you're doing with this. But yeah,
you know, that's a good point.
The same thing though.
I'm sure it's like that with every movie. You have no idea. I mean, there's certain actors that are involved in movies where they're like, I had a feeling about this.
Right. But you never know.
That this was going to be something special, right? And with the host, I mean, God, I can only imagine what, like, Bong Joon Ho had that attack sequence in his head.
Right.
And he knew how it all, I'm sure like Hitchcock, he had every shot planned out in his head. He's like, it's going to go like this, and then this, and this. And it's like, and then to bring that to the screen, I mean, he must be so proud of that sequence, man, because it's truly one of the most impressive set pieces in the history of film.
Absolutely. And the visual effects, like, it's not like you watch it and you're like, oh, he sacrificed a little thing on the budget with the visual effects because it doesn't look that good. But somehow, like,
I read these Letterboxd reviews and people like, they're like, I liked the movie, but like horrible effects. I'm like, wait a minute. No. Like, come on, man. That creature, I watched the DVD the other night, not even the Blu-ray.
Right.
And like, I thought it looked pretty damn good, man.
It does look pretty damn good. I don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's not like it looks like it's on a different plane than the human beings
right.
or the background. And you're like, oh, look at that. It's like, no, this looks like a creature actually did this, right. Okay?
And it's running with the people, and it's interacting with the people, and it's got its own sense of movement and grace to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, because there was animatronics, so it was a combination of animatronics and visual effects, like CGI, right? I mean,
right. Yeah.
So that's how you
I think he had a piece of it that's a puppet that he would use like in close-ups and things, and then he would have the full monster in the movement. It would be a CGI,
right?
Or their version of a CGI.
But I mean, hey man, they pulled it off.
Yeah.
It looks spectacular.
Well, I don't know how much longer we have, but I guess we can wrap this up.
Yeah.
No, thank you for wanting to talk about this movie.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it up.
It's, everyone just needs to go see this movie if they haven't seen this movie. And especially you'll be shocked at how close it is, a 2006 film, to what's going on today. And not in a dark, deep, depressing way. It's just, it kind of pokes fun at it, and it has a sense of humor about it, but also showing how ridiculous and horrifying it can be. But it's just an incredible piece of work from an incredible filmmaker who is going to have an impressive future.
Yep.
So can't wait to see what he does next.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Let's do this again. This one worked. I think it was better doing just one movie.
Nice.
And I can already tell that our audio is going to be better too.
Good.
So yeah, this will be out, and we'll see if we can do this again with another movie.
Okay. Awesome, man.
Good to see you as always.
Yeah, you too, bro.